What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to Tactical Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, March 6th, 2018. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day out there. GunChannels is down right now as far as my channel. I think they're doing some updates over there. So I think the channels are down. The lobby chat, I think, is still available. But so we're only going to be live streaming tonight on YouTube. We will take the audio and put it over on iTunes and on a couple, PodBean and Podomatic and different avenues to listen to this as a podcast starting tomorrow. So let's check out everybody out in the YouTube side. Let's see who we got. We had a festive crowd once again earlier in the day. Patriot in the Dark, Grim90. Grim, if you want to let me know. 50 Caliber Karma, Zippy, Rich White, Night Strike, sent you a link, bro. Let's see here. Phoenix is out there. Midnight Range TM. Tack's got a link. I know he's spending some time with the family, but if you want to jump in, you've got a link already, bro. Let's see here. Raphael's out there. Amorphous, Andrew Faulkner, Outlaw, Hatfield, Clover, Tack. Smeggy's out there. Stormtrooper. What's up, Storm? Let's see here. John Z's out there. Too Hottie. Howdy. Roll call. Guys, we've got some people filtering in, so we're going to say hello. Let's see here. Okay. We posted over there on the GunChannels main page. We can still get to that, so maybe people will see that. Guys, if you're interested or not, go check out GunChannels. It's a great community for pro-gun and Second Amendment activists. GunChannels.com has started about 4 years ago, and they are going through their, I should say they or we, and I don't know, we're all part of it. But, hey, Sandhills, what's going on? Squid, what's going on? Georgia Rebel, what's up? Anyways, GunChannels is going through their 4-year upgrades right now. We're making updates to the website and trying to make it a little more friendly for the user and all that. But if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out. There's 24-hour lobby chats going all the time where you can, it's kind of the water cooler of the Second Amendment community. So go check it out and come over and say hi. It's plural. Okay. I said gun channel. I didn't say gun channel, did I? I'm pretty sure I said GunChannels. What's up, Budget? What's up, G? G, I sent you an email, so if you'd like a link, check your email and all that stuff. Kevin's not here, man. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a really good show tonight. I think it's going to be an important show to talk about. So let's say hello to the panel tonight, starting out with the kid from South Carolina, the Outlaw Hatfield. Ellis, what's going on, man?
Not a thing, Trey. Thanks for having me, bro.
Glad to have you anytime. Producer, engineer of the show from New York, the John Z Project. What's up, buddy?
Giddy up. How's everybody doing tonight?
Up. Giddy up. All right. We've got from Texas, we got Tardot 357. What's up, Tardot?
Oh, not much. Just herding chitlins and trying to get bads done as usual. I think G-Webs blamed me for the whole GunChannels fiasco yesterday.
Well, I do too. I don't know why, but yeah, it sounds like a good person to blame. So we'll go with that. It was everything is Tardot's fault. So there you go. And the tactical leprechaun himself, Clover Tack. What's up?
What's up, fellas?
What's going on? D-Tim's out there. Pacini. What's up, Pacini? So how you guys doing today? We're going to talk a little bit about being pro-gun in an anti-gun world and how to start civil conversations and talk a little about the Second Amendment, the 2A Capitol rallies. But anything going on today that we might have missed or anything in your world that you've heard of legislation or anything? Anybody? Nothing? All right. Calaveras is out there. All right. Nice Strike. If you want in, I sent you an email, bro. So jump on in if you like. I know you got to cut out here a little bit early for hit or miss, but come on in. The water is warm. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and jump right in. With the biggest thing that that we're going to talk about tonight is having the conversation. And the biggest part that I can sit there and say is I think Clover and Tack and I were kind of like in the group message and talking about percentages. And I don't know what the percentages are, but there is a sect of America that is staunch Second Amendment pro-gun. There is a group that is, no matter what happens, they are staunch anti-gun. Don't want them around, get rid of them. And then there's a large, vast majority that are in the middle. You can call them indifferent. You can call them undecided. You can call them the people that don't mind guns. They particularly may not want guns, but they don't mind if we have them. They really haven't made their mind up. So, there's a lot of ways that we can touch these people and get to them and maybe sway them to our side. Because I think this is the crucial part. The 10 to 20% of the people on the left that are more than anything anti-gun, chances are we're not going to be able to change their mind. But we've got a lot of legislation coming down our way that are anti-gun and pro-gun control. And we need to make sure on the local, state, and federal level that we continue to stay vigilant and all that. And in that sense right there, I think we're going to take our first break. So, John, you got something about the Second Amendment activist side?
As a matter, I do.
All right.
With the rising tensions across America regarding guns and gun control, it is important now more than ever to be vigilant about our Second Amendment rights. At Ghost Tactical, we encourage everyone to continuously stay informed while contacting both your local and federal elected officials to make sure they are hearing your voice. They represent you, and without your input, their votes may be susceptible to outside influences. We ask that you actively support any state gun rights organizations such as the Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearm Policy Coalition, and the National Rifle Association. We understand that you may not agree with all of the politics involved with some of these organizations, but we encourage you to keep up with and support as many as you can. Back to you, Trey.
That. Yeah, and we understand that, I do not actively support and send money to the NRA, and I know a lot of people out there do not, but understand that there are still a lot of people that do support the NRA. So, if you're able and willing to support all of them, then go for it. If you refuse to support some of them, I completely understand. The most important thing is find something, whether it's at a state level, a local level, or a national level. Find a gun rights activist organization, support them, and not just send them their money, but get involved, especially if it's a local or state organization and you have the time. Get involved. Ask how you can help. There's all sorts of things that we can do, and we're going to talk a little bit later here to the panel, but we're not really going to want to do is be gun advocates. We're looking to take people from gun advocates to Second Amendment activists, because that's really where we need people. Just because you're pro-gun doesn't mean that you're going to stand up for the right. So we need to make sure that we're understanding there are things that we need to do to get people to understand that our rights are under attack right now, and it's time to not just sit back and take it, but to go on the offensive. And we're gonna try to figure out how the best way to do that tonight. Let's kind of check out before we jump in. Let's see if there's any comments out in the chat. We're gonna get a birthday review. Tossing it. Okay, I don't even want to touch that one.
Midnight Range TM is asking, Ghost Tactical, what's the best way to get the rest of the YouTube gunners all on the same page as a topic?
Well, I'll send this through the room, and we'll talk about that. There is probably, I don't know if the answer is, I don't know if there is a way to get all YouTube gun channels on the same page. That being said, I think G puts a point out there that he's not so sure if that's actually the best thing, because I think what we would need to try to do is we need to try to get the gun channels in the YouTube community that are willing to fight for the Second Amendment. Those are the ones we need to worry about getting together. Getting all of them, there's a lot of people out there that are just putting videos out there of reviews and all that. They could really care less about the Second Amendment and fighting this legislation that's out there. I do believe that there are people that are just, like I said, even though they are gun people, they are advocates, not activists. So as far as getting all the activists together, You know, that's going to be very, very difficult. I'm not saying we shouldn't try, but every channel and every creator has their own reason for being here. Not everyone is here to support and fight for the Second Amendment. Some of them are here as just a hobby. Some of them are here just to put videos out there and hope they get people to like their stuff and get subscriptions and views and all that. But if they are truly looking for being activists, those are the ones. And the answer is, I don't know. I wish I had the answer for you, but maybe we'll come up with something real quick. So let's go through the room. Ellis, what do you think? Is there a way to get the YouTube gunners, if you want to call them that, together more?
Other than just getting rid of the pride behind all of it. Get rid of okay, well, my brand is important, but the Second Amendment's more important. Put the differences aside and move forward with the message. Okay, we got common ground already. We all support the Second Amendment, some more than others, but that's the common line right there that we all need to stand on. And if we don't, we've already failed.
There you go. John, you got any ideas?
I think you're right as to what you said. I don't think we're ever going to get everyone on the same page because we all have different motives and we all have different ideas of what things really are. So I think it would be nice if we can get more people on the same wavelength, but not necessarily on the same page. And what do I mean by that is if everybody's on the same page, then you're not really striving for anything. When everybody's on the same wavelength, we kind of understand the difference between what our constitutional rights are and what our gun rights are and what our rights as to being human beings are. And I think it's more important to get more people aligned on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
As much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as much, you're not going to get everything being a perfect world, but yeah, absolutely. Our Tardot, what you got? I saw RL name out there.
Well, honestly, the best thing I could say was, with a lot of these creators that, or the million subscriber creators, the ones that a lot of people I think are more or less talking about, with a lot of them kind of shifting to trying to get their support from Patreon and things like that. If you're somebody who actually actively supports any of them, especially if you're anybody that does that, always look at, emailing them. I mean, email them anyways, even if you don't, because if they're shifting their support to go from being, NRA or whatever else, and they're trying to get more crowd funded, then eventually they're going to have no choice but to listen to their crowd. But I think a big starting point would just be to email some of these creators, these bigger creators you watch, and any of the creators, and see where they stand and talk to them and say, hey, we've got rallies getting started. Are you going to join in, or would you like to join in?
Yeah. I agree with that. Clover Tech, what you got? I know you've got a thought on this.
A few. The problem is they get big to a point that there's a disconnect. It sort of works the same way as Washington and our stupid politicians, right? And I'm not going to say they're the same. I don't necessarily think that a lot of the big creators feel entitled or anything like that. But it's overwhelming to answer emails and to fish through stuff. And then I think some of the bigger channels you've got to look at. Got to look at engagement factors. You look at subs and you think, okay, well, so-and-so has, 1 million subs. Well, that's great. But if, a third of those is less than, is younger than 18, then what difference does it make? Right. And then if out of the 2/3 left, a quarter of those are, people that just watch it for entertainment, don't own guns, never will own guns, whatever, they live vicariously with firearms through that channel. And I think that's a large portion of the YouTube entertainment firearm channels is younger people and people that really doesn't have any, they don't have any interest in owning or whatever. It's just cool for them to see that stuff. Then you pare that down. You can possibly pare that down even further. So I think not to take any away from the big dogs, but I think once you pare things back to reality and you look at it, it's not the getting them all together is not going to be the coalition you think. And you also got to realize that you can't stack sub counts because a lot of them share sub counts.
That's correct.
That being said, on to the activism and the getting together and whatever. Yeah, I kind of echo the sentiment. I don't know that we need to get together. I think that, however a movement starts, there needs to be a certain level of organization involved with that. And this is what the left does. There's a certain amount of organization with that, whether it's an official organization or not. And you have, you kind of have your mission statement and you have your guidelines for that and whatnot. Something that could be done, getting some of these bigger channels to go out on a limb, is going to be extremely hard to do. They're not going to burn bridges when it comes to their brand and sponsors and other things. However, I mean, they could potentially just at least put out a PSA or, something along those lines, whether they mention it through their Patreon or their Facebook page or Instagram, or, do a little YouTube video or whatever that just kind of says, hey, this is going on, go here if you want more information on that. So, and they're not really taking a side that way. But back to what the left does is they'll organize, they'll kind of get an event going, and they make it look, it's like we talk about, with growing a channel and stuff like that. It's a perception issue, and they're really good at camera angles, and they're really good at getting bodies in a door or in a room or in a crowd. They're maybe there just because they're curious. They may be there because, let's be honest, they may be there because they got paid. Multiple reasons. The core group of people and organizers and activists or whatever with the left, you'll find if you like I said, if you start paring things back, is a very, very small group. I mean, there may be 100 people there, and 10 of them are actually the organizers or whatever. The rest is comprised of some followers, some people that just come to hang out, be it for the free music or the ambiance or whatever. So,
right.
I think that I don't think that it's necessarily going to be a situation to where we have these huge, massive crowds of, thousands or even hundreds for that matter, of people. As long as it can be portrayed. I mean, we work on our camera angles, we work on our other things, and and just create a perception around it where it looks bigger than it is. And I think that's a tactic that we need. Don't be dishonest. In other words, if you put it out there and you have 36 people at your rally, don't take a picture from a weird angle and put it out there that you had 500 people there, but put it out there and say, hey, we had a good crowd, or something along that lines. And you're not being dishonest. You're not lying to anybody. And, it creates a perception at that point that, the movement is actually a lot bigger than it is. And like I said, the left is really, really good at that. They get us all riled up on a lot of different things. And then when you look at it, it's usually just a few agitators are who's actually doing it.
Yep. Excellent points. Night Strike, welcome to the show. I know you've got to cut out here earlier than most, but I'd love to get your opinion on. Right now, we're talking about how to get the YouTube gunners together, if possible.
Well,
and we want to do that,
well, to a certain extent, we do. But you have, but I hate to say this, but I would write these the YouTube gun channels that are 1 million or over with subscribers. I would write them off because some of them aren't even really activists or even advocates for guns. They just do stuff with guns, you know, for a thing. But when it comes to actually interacting or even, you know, or even responding to their fans, they're a no-show. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we need to, you know, get them in on it. Yeah, they'll get a lot of people, but when it comes down to it, are they really the people that we need for the activism and for the advocacy? And you also, I'm almost done. You also have to realize one other thing. You know, Ellis did mention a good point. You know, pride cometh before the fall, as the old adage says. But there's also another thing with those larger channels. You also have ego. And that plays a small, minor part, but it plays a part.
All right. So I agree with the larger channels being tough to get on there. I also agree with the sentiment that I'm not sure if we really want them. Now, obviously, if they're willing to get out and do something, then that's great. But I shouldn't say we don't want them. I should say we shouldn't expect a whole lot of help from them. And if that's the way it is, then that's the way it is. Now, out there earlier in the chat, Midnight Range was talking about the that Hank was at the rally in Florida, but our group wasn't really promoting it. We promoted the Capitol rallies, but he didn't. That's what he's talking about, getting everybody together. I understand that. And here's the thing is,
don't expect the big guys to promote any of the rallies, period.
Well, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying to you is, you know, there are several groups out there. You know, you've got the groups that get like us. We all kind of hang out and we watch each other's shows and all that. And it's a phenomenal group. And then you've got Hank's got his little crew, and you know, you've got Demo Ranch has got their little crew, and Eric's got his little crew, and Tim's got his crew. And honestly, and this just sounds bad, but most of these groups typically don't religiously watch and participate in the other groups. You know, you've got Yankee and Matt and all those guys over here, and then you got these. So what I'm saying is it's kind of hard to get on the same page, because I think Clover even touched it. We share a lot of subscribers possibly, but we don't share a lot of probably viewers that are in on every time that someone comes on, they're going to go and watch their stuff. So it's kind of tough if we're not sharing, you know, viewers as far as the live stuff and all that. It's going to be very, very difficult to get our message to Tim and to Eric and to all these people that may or may not be wanting to listen or read our emails. I think what it will take is a facilitator possibly that actually knows all of these people. And I think that if we get with someone like Hank or someone like that, or I mean, Tack knows a lot of these guys, or someone that knows these people that could get, and not in the same room. I'm not asking them to get on a round table or a same room, but you know, make sure that if there's someone out there that all these people will take their email and read their email and take their calls, then that's someone that can help spread the message to make it a consistent message throughout. I do believe that we all need to support and promote all of the rallies and all of the ideas for the Second Amendment, and not just our little groups. But right now, we do have to focus on something that we're working on, and that's great. Hopefully we can get more people to come in and help out with that. Yeah. Budget Guns and Gear says the organizers of the Ohio rally posted in their Facebook group that Hickok 45 is supposed to be coming to Columbus. Great. You know,
well,
great.
And I'll say this much too. You know, when me and Gunpowder were trying to organize doing kind of a live stream to talk about these types of things and get it going and get the ball rolling, one of the things was I was on one of Hank's chats, and I'm not going to say spam somebody's chats during a live stream, but you know, like right now, almost everybody's chats fall in line with this. You can throw out there that, hey, we're having a rally for this state. Would you mind mentioning it? Or just throw it out there that you're having a rally for anybody who's watching that's in that state. Because once we did that, there were people that were kind of jumping in and messaging us and commenting, saying, "Hey, I'm subscribing. I want to watch that stream. I want to get involved in doing rallies." So just throwing it out there in somebody else's live stream doesn't necessarily, like I said, don't spam it. But if you just throw it out there, you get the message out.
Exactly. All right. So I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this because I think that that's a discussion for maybe off the air. And we should have maybe a private chat on a way to maybe start attacking other groups of gun channels to get them on board, and hopefully we would get on board with theirs. But what I really want to talk about is once we get to the rallies or once we're out in public, since we are fighting a malicious attack from the left on our civil rights, our civil liberties and Bill of Rights, what is the conversation? Because I said there's going to be that small portion of the left that no matter what we say, we're not going to change their minds, just like they're not going to change our minds no matter what they say. But there is a huge part of America, I would say, a vast majority of America is in the middle. Like I said, they're not anti-gun, they're not pro-gun. How do we get them to sit there and say, look, here it is? And if they do come with questions and maybe even anti-gun rhetoric, how do we, I'm not going to say combat that because I don't want to use the word combative. How do we answer those questions and have a civil, peaceful, polite conversation? Because we all know that the left, and especially the media, is going to be playing on emotions, and we need to stay fast and firm with facts, staying calm. I think Clover, we were in a private discussion, and he was talking about cussing is never a proper way to debate or try to convince somebody, because it's just going to escalate the emotional side of things. But I want to start this, and we'll start from the other end and work our way back. But we're going to talk about what's a good way to initiate a good, solid conversation. I'm pro-gun, you're not. We're living as pro-gunners in a possibly anti-gun society right now, at least it seems that way from the media. How do we start that conversation to start getting people in the middle to come and see that we're not these bad people? We're responsible, law-abiding citizens that believe in the right to own firearms. So we're going to start with Night Strike. What you got, buddy?
I'm not really good at debates.
Well, I'm not saying asking for you to debate someone. I'm saying what's a good. All right, I'll tell you. I'll throw this out there. I want from everybody. I want one good piece of advice on how to answer an anti-gunner's question. How about that? And I'm not going to say anti-gunners because they're probably not going to be able to change your mind, but someone who is asking about why we feel should have the right to own guns, or why do we need guns? What's a good thing? Because that question is asked a lot. And honestly, there's a lot of people out there that are pro-gun and are Second Amendment activists that necessarily don't know how to answer that question. And if we can't answer that question or similar questions, then how can we expect to convince them to understand how we feel about the Second Amendment? How about that? You want me to come back to you, Night Strike?
All right. Well, it's just that we can try the method of picking apart the Constitution. You can do that, but someone's going to say, "Oh, but you always do the whole shall not be infringed thing." But it's what our country's government is based on. It's like the cornerstone of our government. But they may not believe with that. So I don't know. It's very hard. I try not to deal with people on the fence just because I don't. Okay. I'm not good at trying to convince somebody on my position. I mean, that's not me.
I understand. There's a lot to be said in an election. I'll say this is an election. You're going to have 33%, a third of Americans are going to be Republican, no matter what. You have 33% of Americans that are going to be Democrat. The middle third is where the elections are won. And when I'm talking about with the middle third, and I think it's actually more, I think it's at least 50% of the Americas are indifferent or whatever to the Second Amendment or to pro guns. So I don't want to do third, but it's a good way of looking at it. That middle third is where elections are won, swaying that middle third one way or the other. And if there truly are these people who say, I don't care about guns. I mean, yeah, it doesn't bother me. How can we take that person or that person that says, I just don't know. I just don't know. How do we take that middle third and make them understand why it's so important to not only be pro-gun, but to be pro-Second Amendment? So we'll go to Clover. What do you think, Clove?
Well, you got to make it relevant. I mean, it's really as simple as that. And you've got to be able to read people. Some people are just not going to be advocates, and some people are just not going to be activists because they just don't have that mindset. They're just not able to think quick enough on their feet or retain the facts they need to retain or keep the composure they need to keep. We're all different, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's other places in this. I don't want to say fight either, but there's other places in this fight where, other skill sets are needed. So, I mean, if you're a person that can't do that, that's fine. But I think ultimately, first of all, it's got to be respectful, first of all, because especially when you're talking about, just like some of us get lumped into, the far right extreme wackos. Some of that, middle third, whatever you want to call it, that you're talking about, gets lumped into the left side too. We're so used to dealing with the, for lack of a better term, nut jobs on the left, that when we get somebody that is just they don't understand, they're really not educated, and they're parroting what they've heard from the left, right? And then so we have a tendency to want to deal with those people like we would try to deal with somebody from the left. And we got to be careful. We've got to try to find out where that person's coming from and sort of understand them just a little bit, and then be respectful. If they're, if they've got this fear, fear of the unknown is a big thing. And for a lot of people, firearms are an unknown. So, just respect that, figure out where they're coming from. And then, like I said, just, treat them like a regular person, but you got to make it relative. So once you've kind of identified where they're coming from, something that they enjoy doing, and if you're quick enough on your feet, somebody would have to give an example to be able to pull that off. But, if you're quick enough on your feet, you could probably relate that over pretty easily.
Well, and I always try to, when I'm having this discussion, just in a public, here, someone that, I know that says, hey, you're, people here in my hometown that I'm friends with will sit there and, man, are you still pro-gun after what's going on? And I always seen it. It sounds funny because you put them in a position, instead of an attack mode, you put them in a position to where they're automatically out of that mode. And a great way of doing that is just asking them in a very calm, polite way. So, before I answer that and before we get into that, I just want to know, why do you feel that your, guns should be banned or there should be no guns? And if you start putting the question to them immediately, they'll end up answering that question. But what you're going to do is you need to be listening and finding out exactly the information that they're using, that they're going to try to use. They'll tell you right up front. If you ask them that question, they're going to give you very quickly the information they're going to try to combat you with. And at that point, now you have ammunition. If you know your facts and you keep calm, you can sit there and say, well, you mentioned this earlier. And let me answer why Australia is not a good example, or Great Britain's not a good example. Or you talk about, your freedoms, and, what if someone try to take away your First Amendment? Would you feel okay with that? Well, no. Then why are you worried about the Second Amendment? If you ask them the question as to why they possibly don't want guns or they're anti-gun, chances are in the first 30 seconds of their reply, they're going to spread out and give you all of their points right away. And then you've got the rest of that conversation and kind of pick points off by point.
Yeah, I mean, asking questions is a really good tactic. Don't come out and say, if they mention Australia, don't come out and say, well, let me tell you about Australia. No. Go. Well, do you, ask them, say, well, do you understand exactly what happened with Australia? And odds are they're probably going to come back and go, well, no, I heard on the news that they did, and then go, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's talk about Australia then.
Yeah.
Don't tell them anything, just have a conversation.
It is because they're not going to listen to what you're saying, as much as if you try to preach to them as to try to convince them. But what you can do is if you take their points and dissect them and try to, that's how you need to change their minds, is you let their arguments turn against them. So that's a really good way to debate.
And what one thing that I had brought up before, this ties into, there was a question out there from Sandhills, and he says he wished he knew how could get all of his friends off the fence and make them recognize that unless we fight for the Second Amendment, we stand to lose every amendment. It all goes back, Sandhills, to what I said about being able to make it relative. And for some people, you're just not that person to make it relative. You're not going to be able to do it. And that's the beauty of everybody turning on a camera, about having multiple channels, multiple people. We're all different people. We all handle things differently. We all have different personalities. So my suggestion is, if you're having a hard time with people that you talk to frequently, getting points across and stuff like that, is sharing some of the channels and stuff that you follow here, and maybe somebody can make it relative for that person. May not be myself, may not be Ghost, may not be Ellis, may not be Tardot, may not be Night Strike, may not be G, but somebody, maybe Roll Call out there, or RL, or somebody will make it relative for them.
Exactly. G is joining us. Thanks for joining us, G, from Arizona. And I know that you've been in this game a while. You've seen a lot of rallies. You've seen a lot of things happen. What are some ways for the people that are just maybe learning how to become quote unquote activists and all that? What's a good way for them to maybe initiate a good, solid, civil, peaceful conversation?
That's a good question. So it's an important question, and one that doesn't come up enough, and I've seen it addressed over and over. Starting with probably Sandy Hook was the time when everyone had a voice together. We all had internet before with other things. We all got to see the end of the assault weapons ban together on the internet, but Sandy Hook is when we were all communicating at a, let's say, dangerous level as far as the first goes. It was doom on them. They came at us when we were able to communicate and we were able to grassroots organize.
Right.
Okay, so how to communicate. Then we didn't have a chance to ask each other those questions. People just had to do. So there was 23, Sandy Hook happened in the middle of November. By the middle of middle of December, right? By the middle of January, weeks later, there was 23 things on the table. The NRA was sitting down with people, and they were already talking about strategies and stuff. Channels were a quarter of the size they are now, if that. Not even. How big is Hickok now? 1 million or more than 1 million? 2 million?
Yeah,
Hickok was
1.5 or something like that. Yeah.
Hickok was my size, so he was like 100,000, and nobody. Eric and Tim wasn't even existing yet. He was probably 25,000 or something. Nobody was a big channel yet. No one had a voice, and there was a different kind of time or whatever. So conversations, if they were happening for real between two human beings. They weren't happening, and then there was a roundtable discussion like this. Months later, we started to use these types of hangouts to have conversations and talk about conversations, right? We, as 2A activists and whatever, had conversations about our conversations with, we had hangouts about our conversations with non-2A people, right? So we actually got to get some effort or some time in strategizing or whatever. So that's what I'm thinking is the first time we actually sat down, at least I ever sat down and had these kind of conversations, and it was interesting, and then it was challenging, and then it was frustrating, and now it's more than frustrating. So 2013, it was frustrating. 2014, it was challenging because we were developing these conversations and continuing to have them. We were continuing to be pushed against. I'd have to go through and look at a calendar, but it'd be very simple to put together a calendar, just go backwards. Vegas, Texas, Florida, right? You know, it's just go backwards, gun issue to gun issue, right? So we keep having this same conversation right here, and Night Strike's leaving because it's getting difficult. So he doesn't make the amendment, he's willing to compromise. So
I'm not willing to compromise on anything. I just have to go prepare for my show. So
that's fine.
Screw off.
Have a different show. So seriously though, we've been having these conversations about how to have useful conversations for a long time. So here's my long ass way of saying, I'm not blowing off the answer because we've had this answer 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. I'm beyond frustrated. Now I'm wondering if we're sane, and I've said it before and I'll keep saying it. If we react with if they can anticipate the way that we're going to react, then why would we expect to see anything different ever? If they know that both sides can profit from punching us, and we're a big punching bag, and we just swing right back into place, and we swing back with a little bit of motion, and then we go back to rest. That's what we are. We're a big ass punching bag, and that's what we're saying is, how do we have a conversation with that fist, right?
Right.
So
right.
This is the ambush we're in right now. I started seeing this in 2013, 2014. It's painfully obvious. Just look back. We are in an ambush point right now. You brought it up excellently with that last point. This is like most useful thing I've heard in the chat literally in years, when you talked about asking them the question first. Parry their fucking move, because like you said, or whoever said, Clover said earlier, they're bringing us a bunch of list of stuff they heard. None of them researched nothing, right? So when you ask them, you know what they're about to throw at you, and they don't know. They haven't practiced having
I'm not expecting that at all.
Verbal debates with anyone before. So you're asking them, they're telling you. That's brilliant. So the problem is we're doing it at a time that we're in the ambush. So you're talking about, how do you engage in a firefight? Great, yeah, engage in the firefight efficiently, but let's not engage in this fucking firefight anymore. We're going into a bottleneck. We go into an ambush. They attack us when something horrible happens with the person who did the horrible act politically chose to use a firearm. He chose not to use poison. He chose not to use arson. He chose not to use a vehicle. He chose not to use gravity. He chose not to use something else. He used a firearm intentionally. They're using that as they're exploiting it. And it doesn't matter if it was intentionally done or not. It was intentionally used a firearm. That's what matters. And it doesn't matter if you want to get into tinfoil hat. Let's get away from that. The fact is that the ambush point is them going after us whenever there's a situation like this. So what do? They come at us with emotion and with sensible and with logical and with if it just one, and we're coming back at them with, technically you're talking about a thing that has two instead of one. Technically this is different because cosmetically, technically it's my right. So it shall not be infringed. None of these things are what they're interested in hearing. So you're right. It's an ambush point. You're right. It's difficult to address these things, how to have an efficient conversation. Long way asked a way of saying this. Let's not have the ambush point. How do we avoid this conversation? Don't allow the conversation to happen. And I think that's possible by allowing people to know all the time, and maybe not 24/7, but throughout the month, maybe spend one post out of social media every week. One a week, 52 times a year, right? 4 times a month, once a week, you intentionally put something in there about a gun shop or about a shooting thing, not something crazy about a person who saved the freaking so-and-so with shootouts. Just like Clover would post something like, I'm teaching the kids how to aim a little bit different way. Here's a way you can do it when it's raining out. Here's a new gun I bought. Here's a range that's kind of cool. Did you know this small business owner's been here for 40 years? Just plain old gun stuff. How does that solve this conversation? How does this have the conversation? Because anybody who knows you isn't going to walk up to you now and go, justify your position, because they've already known your position because you've made it perfectly clear to them. How many of us own cars? We all own vehicles, right? Now, horrible drunk driving incident happens in town. How many people come up and accuse you and ask you to justify your position on owning a vehicle? It's ridiculous, right? Because we all own vehicles, and it's kind of a known thing. The reason that they're able to do this, the reason that they're able to come at us with this, if just one, why would you want to own a rifle? Is because they don't know what a rifle is. They don't know what fun it might be. They don't know what investment it might not be. They might not be interested in the subtleties of why we like an original Colt, blah, 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 instead of a modern Anderson, blah, blah, blah. You know, who cares? It's just the same way we might not give a shit about whatever jewelry or shoes or swimming pools or guitars or race cars or railroad tracks that they might be interested in, right? It's just that they get to persecute ours because it's being politically driven right now. So I say the way that we end that, the way that we have that actual debate is it takes a shitload of work. Look how much work you and Clover and Tardot and John and Ellis, everybody in here is doing on the regular so that you can put in some information out there. A lot of people are going to go, oh, I don't care about making a channel. I don't care about getting famous on the internet. Who cares? You got to make a decision. You're either going to sit there and be a worthless audience, wasting your time so that when this shit happens and when the media, who has all kinds of power and money, when they want to, and I don't mean the power and money is a bad thing. They just happen to have it. They happen to have a bunch of audience.
They had the
That's a bad thing. We fought the British. They had more stuff than we did. We didn't sit there and go, well, they have more boats than we do. They have more guns than we do. We fucking fought them and we won, right? Let's fight the media and fucking win. So that's why I call them Minuteman University, because we're the modern Minuteman. You either get up off your ass and use the internet as a weapon, or you sit back and watch everything happen. You just drift along like a drifter and watch nothing happen. So you're going to have this discussion in the ambush point, or you're going to say, hey, how do we have a discussion when we're being shot at? Or do you wise up and not keep walking into the fucking ambush in the first place? And I think that the way to get out of that ambush is to make yourself a subject matter expert. Again, if something happens like fishing, let's say there's a giant news article, or there's like a big event, somebody falls out of a boat and dies fishing, and then all this media scrutiny is, how can people be fishing? You don't need to fish. You can get fishing, fish from the store. You don't need to go to a lake and fish. It's super dangerous. People don't know you're out there, and there's boats, and like fish are at risk, and like there's duck hazards or whatever. Like the people should need to fish, and then you're a fisherman. People know you fish. What are they going to do? They're going to come up and ask you about it, right? They're not going to come up and accuse you. Like, what the hell do you get off fishing? No, they're going to be like, is this true? What's going on with this? So you can either make the decision to hide your guns in the closet because if I put an NRA sticker on my car, the thugs are going to know where to get me, which is the buttest bullshit I keep hearing all the time. Or like, wear a fucking gun shirt once in a while. Let your people know, like your friends and family, your people at school and church and work, that you're a gun person. That's how do they win? Because we're all hiding in closets, or most of y'all are hiding in closets. I guess my long ass answer to your question. Thanks for letting me rant.
Yeah, no worries. It's always good to hear you rant every now and then. I've kind of missed it. No, and I like what you're saying is we're gonna have to figure out a way to flank them, and when they think that they know our strategy, you have to flank them. That's just the art of war, is figuring out something to let them believe they know how we're going to react to their attack, and we come up with something else and put them right back on the defensive. I think a lot of what you said is true about being consistent. I think consistency, and we've talked about this a lot in other chats and for years, is, we are a very strong group of people. And I say that the pro-gun Second Amendment activists are a very, very strong group when we need to be. The problem is we had from last January 20th, I believe is when Trump was inaugurated, till October when Vegas happened. That's 10 months. And we basically, as a community, did nothing. We had a Republican president. We had a Republican Congress and Republican Senate. And for the most part, we accomplished nothing as far as gun rights are concerned. That being said, is we can't always wait for tragedies to happen because, like you said, G, we're automatically going to be on the defensive because they're going to be attacking us on a specific issue. That here's the thing, guys. I don't want to take anything away. Obviously, you guys know how I feel about the Florida tragedy and everything. I have a very good friend of mine who's literally affected by this tragedy. I'm not taking anything away. But, guys, we can't win that argument. We can't. We cannot take an argument of a crazy person walking into a school and shooting and killing 17 people with an AR-15. We can't defend the gun in that situation. We can't. We can sit there and say all we want. It's not the gun, it's the person. We can say this. We can't do it because they're fighting with emotion and they have the media on their side. But here's the thing. We can spend the other 364 days of the year trying to put out a consistent message so that when a tragedy does happen, these people already know where we stand. They already are familiar with the facts. They're already familiar with the side that they can't combat. Okay, they're fighting facts with emotion. Emotion's going to win most of the time. But if we continuously put the right facts out there, we continuously debunked all of their fake news or their fake facts or their emotional stats out there, we continuously, as publicly as we can, debunked all of their stuff on a consistent basis, then they don't have any more ammo to come with this. They can talk about a specific event, and that's fine, but they can't talk the big picture because we've already basically shut them down. So I do like the fact of being consistent. Let's see here. Tardot, what you got, buddy?
Well, I do agree with entirely with what G is saying, and the biggest point to put to that, I can't really add too much to it. Is just that you got to be visible to start it off. When you're doing these rallies, be out there, like he said. Every once and outside of the rallies, like he said, wear a gun T-shirt. A lot of people open carry if you're able to on like the Every Second Matters, things like that. But as far as rallies, be visible and be out there. When we went to the Texas rally this last year, there were people that came up and asked me in Gunpowder questions. As far as trying to be that person at the rally that can kind of change minds, change the minds of the people that are in that middle ground. You just got to be visible. If you're not there, if you're not putting your opinion out there, if you're not showing that you are one of the activists for it, you're not going to get addressed. So you've got to be able to answer those questions, or answer questions as they're coming, by showing that you're one of these people for the activist moment. The big part of it is, in order to address it, and this is going back to what Ellis said, in order to actually address people correctly, you've got to take pride out of it to a point. We want to be proud of who we are and what we're about. But if you go into it, and I think a comment was made earlier, and just all you're doing is screaming, shall not be infringed, you're not going to be taken seriously. You've got to go into it, like you said, and like G was hitting on. You've got to ask them questions. Put them on the spot and let them tell you why they're there, why they feel guns need to be taken away, guns need to be restricted, we need to increase background checks, whatever their point is. Have them tell you, and then as they're giving you the answer, know your facts. If you know your facts, you can debunk that quickly and easily. But you really got to take pride out of it to a point. You can't sit there and just scream and holler at them. I know they do it to us a lot of the time, but there's a reason. It's because once they get us riled up and we start hollering, well, you got to think, we're the ones with the guns. We're the ones fighting for that cause. And we start to look worse than they do because they're screaming without guns. It's a perspective thing to a point, but you do want to be able to address their questions, but you want to be able to ask them the same questions and get their point and just, I guess, prove them wrong is the biggest point of it.
Yeah. There's a couple of really good questions and points I want to get to. I think, John, I think you said you wanted to do another station break. So we're going to come right back from a station break and answer some questions and talk about some comments on the chat, because there's some really good ones out there. So take it away, John.
The 2A Capital rally discussions and planning are in full force. Planning for the next rallies is in progress as we speak. Please check out the 2A Capital Rally Facebook page for any and all current information. We are asking that you spread the word about the rallies and get as many people interested as you can. If you would like to be involved in the planning for your state, please contact one of the admins on the Facebook page or make a post on the page stating you would like to help out. Remember, it is time to go on the offensive, but be vigilant in our fight and make sure that any opposition is met with peaceful, intelligent, and factual response. And feel free to check out the link posted for the Facebook 2A Capital Rally page.
Thanks, John. I'm going to get into this real quick, and I'll get to you, Ellis, and don't think that I'm going to miss you, Ellis and John, but there are some things on the chat that I want to bring up and discuss. So Dr. No out there says, in order for there to be a battle, two sides must show up. show up on the gun issue and you've entered into a no-win battle and validated your position. Being right isn't winning. Yeah, and that's true. I was talking about this earlier. The problem, and Georgia Rebel's out there, and he's trying to. He's new to the creator community. He's trying to get his a live chat set up for the first time. It's gonna be awesome. But he said he can't find any anti-gun people to come on, and it's gonna be. You're not going to find many anti-gun people that are willing to come on a live chat, especially if they don't know you. They don't know your crowd, your viewership. They don't know what to expect because a lot of them, once again, they're coming to battle with emotion. And if you're sitting in a live chat or a podcast where you've got people that have facts, they know they're being ambushed at that time. Just like G said that we're being ambushed a lot on the media side. When it comes to being invited to a pro-gun podcast or chat or show, whatever you want to call it, they're not going to come into that ambush because they know that they're not going to have a relative stable argument to make to us. So that's why, Georgia, you're probably not going to find someone. And no, you are right. Winning isn't always about being right, because we're right most of the time, but it doesn't seem like we're winning all the time. So that's a very good point. If you guys want to talk about that for a second, you can. If not, I'll move on to the second question and statement.
Clover had a thing from a long time ago that you didn't read on the internal.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, yeah. Go for it, Clove. What you got on the internal? I didn't really read it. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to pick up on what G was saying a little bit, and
like 16 minutes ago, we got it.
Yeah. Well,
I was watching the chat out there trying to keep up with it.
Always ignore the side. I always go with ignore the YouTube side.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, that's where my crowd is right now. I don't like ignoring the crowd. Go ahead, Clove.
What G was explaining to me, and I don't know, maybe I heard it differently than everybody else, but I mean, I agree, because this is where I come down, is that you walk the walk and you talk the talk, right? Mm-hmm. If you are a pro gun guy, if that's a part of your life, if that, whatever, then let that show in your Instagram, let that show in your Facebook, let that show. You don't have to be, not in an in-your-face type way, but let people see that's part of your daily life. And then G's absolutely correct in that it eliminates a lot of the ambush. But what it creates is, because this happens to not only myself but my wife, can't hardly go to town that somebody doesn't approach me, for sure. And I mean, she's come back home and told stories where, because she's married to me, somebody approached her and was trying to ask her a question, or something like she knows. And the people that do approach you, those are the minds that can be changed. Those are the people you can sway. Those are the people that they're not educated. Maybe they don't understand. They don't quite understand something, maybe. And they're trying to figure things out in your head.
You, there's a reason why they're approaching you, or your wife.
Yeah, and you put it out there that you're a person that walks the walk, you're a person that talks the talk, and they feel that they feel at that point, they, like she says, they know where you stand, they know they're not walking into an ambush because they're pretty sure where you're going to come down, and what they're looking for at that point is education and information is what they're looking at, so that they can then in their own mind, figure stuff out, process it. And like I said, those are the minds that you can change. So I think it's important to do that.
Yep. Beaverwood Outdoors out there makes a really good point. He says the problem is that they change their message and we keep repeating the same old, and they don't listen because we are compliant in our message. How do we change our message but still be pro 2A? I don't think you change your message. I think you change your delivery of that message. And I think this is exactly what G was talking about and Clover's talking about is we can keep the same basic message because our message isn't wrong. Our message is maybe just not as effective, and the delivery of the message is not always effective. So I think that you have to be creative in how you bring the message out. We have a lot of people in this community that do it different ways. You have someone like Yankee who is going to be more of a Howitzer Moon shock jock and all that. You have other people that are going to use more of a sense of humor of bringing their message to the table. You're going to be someone that's going to bring, there's so many different ways. And I think that not just go and get it with hard facts and say, shut up, be infringed, and I hate to say that because I love that that phrase in the Constitution, unfortunately, that little phrase has become a catchphrase. It's become cliche. And the word shall not be infringed don't seem to mean as much anymore because it's used in so many weird different ways. So we need to change how we deliver our message, I think. And I think a lot of it is me personally not changing my delivery, Clover not changing his delivery, G not changing his, and Tardot and all these guys not changing it. But as a collective group, we have multiple deliveries that are taking the same message. So if you don't like me, that's fine. You may like Ellis, you may like Tardot, you may like R.L. Sewer, you might like all these guys out here, but you may not like me. That's fine. As long as the message is getting out in different ways, the same message can still be put out. What we don't need is everyone being shall not be infringed, howl at the moon, from my dead cold hands. That is probably not going to work much anymore. But as far as that goes, I mean, changing the delivery, in my opinion, and you guys can speak what you think about it. In my opinion, the message needs to stay consistent, but how you present the message could probably be changed in a lot of different people's personalities, I should say. Hello.
Right.
Okay, you can. Okay, all right. So we missed out. Is Ellis still with us? I haven't even checked. Is Ellis? You're still with us?
Yeah.
Go ahead and let us know what your. We were talking earlier about the best way to. What's that?
It's just the old Ellis.
It's just the old Ellis. So the new Ellis is okay. Well, we'll take the old Ellis. But Ellis, when we're talking about, and we'll just go into anything we talked about, whether it's a consistent message or changing the delivery or trying to stay away from ambushes or trying to get more gun channels on the same page. We've talked a lot, and since last time you came up and spoke, but what are your thoughts on what we've talked about, and do you have anything to add or to subtract or whatever? Go ahead and speak your piece right now.
I look at it like this: you need to know who you're talking to. Okay, let's say you're at a rally. You got 100 anti-gunners across the street screaming, yelling, they're getting in your face. And then you have this one guy that just walks up and asks a simple question.
Yeah.
What is your intentions here? What do you want? Yelling at this guy, screaming at this guy is not going to do anything but push him to the other side. You need to be able to know who you're talking to. And getting mad, getting angry, yelling, screaming, acting like they're acting is not going to get you anywhere. Answer questions, and you're right. The best way to fire back at them is answer their questions with questions. Why do you support the Second Amendment? Why don't you? And in that way, what you're doing is turning the ball into their court. It makes them force the issue. And when they do, they're going to put their foot in their mouth eventually, because they always do. They always end up saying something that's unfactual that they think is absolute. I've heard it 100 times, and that's the only way to combat this. But like I said, know who you're talking to, because not everybody there is going to be anti-gun. There's going to be people just walking around wanting to know what's your opinion on this. I know what they're saying. What do you say in response to that? But you can't answer this guy the same way you would answer somebody that is on the opposite side, because if you try that, you're just pushing him away. You have to stay calm and say, look, it's like this. There is this thing called the Second Amendment, and this is what we're fighting for. It's the basic principles that this country was founded on, and explain to him why you feel this way. And the more questions this guy asks, the more you answer. And that's how you turn him more to our side and less from theirs. And that's what we got to do. And it's one person at a time. We win this battle one person at a time. It's that simple. It's the only way to win it.
Oh, there's no doubt it's not going to be a mass exodus from one side to the other. It's going to be a slow, methodical, and I want to call it a reboot of thinking, if you want to call it that. There's going to have to be some reprogramming. Understand also, guys, is especially with the younger generation, you're talking about people that that are quote unquote anti-gun or, you know, for gun control, whatever you want to call them. You're talking about people that are going to sit there and say that they've been raised by families, and it's not making a derogatory comment, but they're raised by families that probably have never had guns around the house, or anti-gunners themselves. So they've been programmed from the beginning to feel and think a certain way. Maybe not on purpose. They might have had parents that say guns are evil, guns are this, that, and the other. But if they've never been around a firearm in their entire life, they're probably got a little apprehension towards them. They're probably a little scared of them. They don't know what to think because they've never been really exposed to firearms in their life.
Same thing as like a dog, right?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Same thing as like a dog, right? They never had a dog. They might be scared of dogs when they meet them.
Exactly.
Around dogs, you're not scared of no dogs ever.
That's right. So then they move on to college. And what if they get to a college that's a relatively or very liberal university or academic institution? And you have not only professors talking liberal things, but it's also probably made up. If it's a well-known liberal type school, it's probably made up of very liberal people in themselves. So not only are you there hearing it from a professor, because we're talking about for the first time in their life, an 18, 19-year-old kid away from home for the first time to explore their own minds without being told to do by mom and dad. So they're going to be open to a lot more. So if they go to these schools that are predominantly taught by liberals, I'm not saying all of them, but there are a majority of universities are more liberal leaning. So you have professors that may be more liberal leaning. They're gonna present their case to these 18, 19-year-old sponges, and that's what they are. They're sponges. They're gonna soak up every little bit of information that they could possibly get, and they're getting all this rhetoric from their liberal professors. Then they leave class, and then they go and hang out with their dorm room roommates or their friends, and they join these clubs and these activities at the school. And these are predominantly liberal clubs and societies out there, and they keep pushing all this stuff. You know, that's what Antifa was. It's exactly what Antifa was. It was a bunch of kids that started a club, and it kind of spread like wildfire. So you can't expect an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid that's in college who's had literally 21 years probably of programming of one certain way. You know, you can't sit there and expect overnight to change that kid's mind. What you can do is introduce them to a different way of thinking. And whether that means a kid comes up and says, blah, blah, blah. You know what? A very simple thing to ask them is, hey, before I answer any of your questions, I've got a question for you. Before we get into this debate, have you ever shot a gun before? And they're probably going to say no. Sit there and say, I tell you what, I would love to have this debate, but before you get into this, would you like to go to the range with me real quick and shoot a round through my pistol? And just before you debate me, at least have some experience with a firearm. Because if you get them to a range somehow, some way, and let them experience the adrenaline rush and the euphoria of pulling that trigger, because it really is. For the first time, I think everybody probably had a really good experience the first time going, oh my gosh, that was awesome. Hey, C4 Defense, how you doing, buddy? You know, if there's a way to possibly get to them that range, and now you're on your own turf, you get them to that range, you let them pull that trigger and let them experience that. And now where are you? You're going to have a debate about firearms while they just shot a gun and you're at the range. Now you've changed the playing field. That's a way. And I'm not saying it's going to work because a lot of them won't do that, but at least try to take them to a gun shop and say, you know, this, that, and the other. Try to get them somewhere where you're out of their comfort zone and put them on your playing field. It's a very, very subtle way, but I think that we all can agree that if someone gets to the range and is willing to ask you a question, then maybe they're willing to go to a range and maybe just haven't been taught or experienced a gun before. And you can get them to that range and let them squeeze the trigger 10 times and let it feel what it's like to have the power of that gun in your hand. And it's a beautiful experience. Maybe then, you know, that changes the discussion. So don't ever be afraid to just fight with facts. Try to get them to do something they're not comfortable with, and maybe that is firing a gun. Sorry, G, what were you saying?
I'm just going to add to that it also shows that you're willing to help out, and that it's not some kind of scary thing or something that's done in the dark shadows, or that it's weird or any of that. Because most of the time, it's kind of boring. If you go to an indoor range, you know, it's kind of sterile, and you know, it's like just like anything that they might do as a recreational thing. It's definitely, well, we've all know it where we're preaching the choir story. We go to indoor ranges, but That's a great introduction to them, right? And
Yeah.
they're going to get the experience, but they're also going to get the experience of how cool gun owners are. And you take a person to the range and go, this is a person who's not necessarily into guns, and they're checking it out today, and everybody's going to be real nice to them. Be like, oh, but make sure you have this, and make sure you know this. And they're going to know that gun owners are a community, right? They're cool.
Exactly. Hottie's out there asking, do you have this debate? Do you debate this topic with those actually affected by violent crime? Absolutely, you do. And I'll use you as an example. If you don't have that debate and you don't have this discussion with someone who's been involved with a violent crime, you yourself were involved with a violent crime and you're a very staunch Second Amendment activist. So why wouldn't we have this conversation? Now, you're going to have to probably watch your P's and Q's even more, and you better come strong with facts instead of emotion, because this person is truly emotionally driven, but you better be able to come into and have that discussion. But why would you scare away from the discussion? I think that's exactly what you need to have, because this person was directly affected by it, and they only see the scary side or the negative side of it. But I'm not saying to take them out shooting. I'm not saying them to try to change their mind. But I think what you should try to do is sit there and say, I understand where you're coming from, and I apologize for the tragic and all that. But not every gun owner is like that person who shot you. And if you can convince them that there are good gun owners out there and there are positive role models that just happen to have, there are a lot of people in your hometown small communities that are absolute leaders of your community. Some of them have to be pro-gun, and these people might not know that. You sit there and say, well, I know you might not like me, but what do you think about Mayor Smith? I voted for him 3 times. Yeah, Mayor Smith is very much a pro-gun person. Oh, really? I didn't know that. There are ways to not just make it about yourself or them, but try to tie in something and make it relevant to their lives, because they've been affected directly by it. And you may not ever change your minds, but I want to say this, and I'm over the room that you guys talk about this. If you're afraid to bring up this conversation with someone who has been affected by it, then what are we doing this for? I mean, you cannot be afraid to bring this up with anyone. You might lose that battle. You may very well go down in flames and lose. You might actually, enrich their beliefs and harden their beliefs against the gun community. But at least you tried. For those of you that aren't trying and you're not willing to make that fight, then don't come crying when our guns get taken from us. So that's my 2 cents. But yes, Toddy, I believe that you have to have this discussion with anybody and everybody that you can, regardless of their situation. And you may have to read them. If it's not going to go anywhere, then respectfully say, look, I apologize for your situation. It probably looks like that we're going to have to agree to disagree, and I'd rather part as friends than as enemies. So that's how you may have to handle it. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I will sit there and say you've got to be willing to have this discussion with anybody. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I agree.
I agree too. And, like you said, you got to feel the person out and kind of know. It's the same with every conversation. You got to know where you're going to go with it. Because if you take it the wrong direction, you could essentially just strengthen their beliefs, and you can't be afraid of it. But at the same time, I would even go so far as to say, depending on situations, you may even ask them, if you could have stopped that from happening, would you have wanted to? Just to get a feel for what their position is on self-defense in general.
Oh yeah, and that's a really good point, and that's a way maybe, and I never thought about that, but, and I will use Holly. Let's say someone has been shot in their younger years as a young adult, and it is what it is, and they're not sure if they're pro-gun or anti-gun or whatever. That's a great point. Sit there and say, okay, if you had the ability, knowing what you know now, if you had that ability to change the way that might have gone down 20 years ago or whatever, would you have done it? That's a great, because who would have said no? Who would say no? And there might be a couple, there very well could be, but the vast majority sit there and say, if I could have prevented it, yeah, my life would be a lot better if I could have prevented that. That's a really good point, Tardot. So kudos to you. I like that.
People that are interested in doing that, though. There's tons of people that have no interest in.
You're right.
They're like, well, that's my time. Like, oh, that would mean I'm done then.
Yeah. Man, I fight for every second.
Well, that's why I just. Okay, but I hear you. But I'm just saying, if we're trying to have effective communication with people, being like, oh, well, if you don't even want to defend yourself, then I can't fathom your thing, right? No, you got to understand that some people just aren't going to be affected by that. They don't care about defending their lives or anybody else's. And you can't write them off. They still have a vote.
No, absolutely. Yeah, they don't write them off. I'm just, we're just trying to figure out. I mean, is there a dialogue? And is like you said,
well,
everyone's. You're right. I mean,
is I never actually, as little as possible, never, if possible, use self-defense as a justification for our Second Amendment. It's a nice, pleasant side effect, but just like hunting, it's a nice, pleasant side effect, but it's not there for that. It's there, and it's not there so that each individual night strike can pick up an AK that may or may not work and point it towards Washington, D.C., yell, and start pulling triggers. That's what they're afraid of. What they're afraid of is an individual, a person who has, from the bootstraps up, an individual life ahead of them. And we decide as individuals to work together. That's what the Second Amendment does. And that's what the politicians fear. And that's what every other country full of scoundrels fear. So anyway, that's what I like to get to in a discussion with a hardened anti. When we talk about somebody who's affected by violence, well, then I'm assuming the connotation there, or the question really there, is somebody who's like glitched. They're warped. They're never going to acknowledge that a firearm could be used for defense. Could you realize if you said that to somebody, you might as well say, well, why didn't you defend your life better? I mean, that's a horrible accusation. We don't have any idea of what actually went down in their life, and we're going to tell them, well, what if you would have had a gun? I mean, that could be a messed up thing mentally, I think, to even bring up to somebody. So I don't think I'd bring that up, but I'd go,
you would have known now what you know then, would you be able to do something to prevent it? I'm not saying using a gun, but would they have wanted to maybe change the circumstances?
Well, I'm just saying you're going back to a point in time of pain. And I'm saying I would rather go away from that and say something to the effect of, would have taken the rights out of away from everyone, really prevented violence, because the details of their situation is really here nor there. If you're going to talk to somebody who was affected by violence and the person who did it used a firearm, really, what's the difference between talking to somebody like that and somebody who was in a vehicle in a car accident? How many people that were in car accidents never get back in a vehicle? It might get a little crazy the second time you get in a car, and then after you walk 2 miles to get somewhere, you figure out you like cars again, right? So I think that there's logical arguments, and I was listening to it today, and I wish I'm talking, so I'm not able to put it together fast enough while I'm talking, but some just logic, some things to focus their logic, or to make them think logically about their arguments. Because they'll say things like, the best one is the memes that you've seen where they go, no one should have AR-15s except the military. And then at the other side, it'll say, we live in a police state and the military shouldn't have, or the police shouldn't have military arms. So it's that contradiction. They want gun control, but what they really don't want is gun control. What they really want is just the guns out of certain hands. So I think using some of those angles.
Well, they just want control in general. Yeah.
I guess what I should have said is I'm going after that concept. The idea that what is it you're really concerned about? If you are truly concerned about the 300 million guns in this country, that's so scary to you to think about 300 million guns. And people are definitely have a reason to make you scared of those 300 million guns that had no reason. Let's go ahead and suggest that every one of them was made to kill. Every one of those guns was built by a scoundrel, laughing evilly as he was filing it together out of hate metal to kill people, right? 300 million of them. They're in the hands of almost everybody in this country. So where is your concern yesterday and the day before and the day before? Can you even start thinking about all the days and the hours of each of those guns' existence where they did nothing? The concern that they have, I think if you actually make them look at it, shows them that there's nothing to be concerned about. The number of instances that we actually see violence with firearms is seriously tiny. It's the craziest percentage of all implements. I mean, knives and stuff would be the only thing close, but cars is huge numbers of cars are used for violence more than guns. So they're being manipulated. And I think that if you take them an argument, instead of saying you should defend yourself or you should have done something better, Instead, say, what is it you're really concerned about? The 300 million guns that did nothing yesterday? It did nothing the other day? It did nothing? One gun with one guy did something once, but now you're concerned about the 360 million of them? Do you really understand that number? Because how can they be logical? How can they consider themselves to understand numbers and then still be concerned about this less than 500 instances in a year?
And, and I agree. I agree with that entirely. The whole reason I was bringing that argument up, though, is because you do, when you go into these conversations, and I agree, yeah, you don't want to take them back to that emotional point. Kind of the route I was taking there may have been a little off, but the big point of what I was getting at was you got to find where their discrimination lies against guns in general and try to argue it from that point.
No doubt. No doubt. Real quick before we move into the last segment, John, why don't you take us into our third break real quick?
At Ghost Tactical, we encourage the support of all firearm content creators. We are excited about the influx of new creators and are working effortlessly to get these up-and-coming stars noticed. We created a program to spotlight newer channels while increasing their brand awareness. We call this the GunChannels Blitz. All we ask is that you, the viewer and subscriber, visit the channel selected for the GunChannels Blitz, and if you like the channel and content, please subscribe to that channel and use the hashtag GunChannelsBlitz when leaving your comments for that channel's video. Tonight's channel is Georgia Rebel. He is putting out some great content, including some great gun reviews, knife reviews, and will be starting up live chats soon. So check out Georgia Rebel and subscribe to him today.
There you go. And Georgia's out there, and I think he's talking about doing his first chat tomorrow night. So, guys, go check out Rebel. And if you like his work, then go ahead and find a video that you actually like and comment and say you've been hit by the hashtag GunChannelsBlitz. Hashtag GunChannelsBlitz. So let me get it out there and let them know that we're out there, and not just, and I'll say this, guys, not just subscribe, but if you're actually liking someone's content, make sure you hit the notification bell. Now, we all know that the YouTube notifications are really out of whack right now, and I get that. But go ahead and hit that bell just to make sure, just in case it works, it happens. Kevin the Tack Daddy says, I just subbed, it better be good. So Georgia, we're glad to have you in the community. You've just been kind of showing up the last couple of weeks, and it's been really good to have you. And like I said, I'm really happy for the new guys that are turning the cameras on for the first time. I was there 8 months ago, and Clover was, Clover's been doing this a while, but Ellis was there maybe 5 or 6 months ago. Tardot's been a couple months. I mean, it's one of those things where the fact that we've got so many new cameras being turned on, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, passing our message in a different delivery. The more channels that we get, the more we can spread the message. And like I said, the different personalities everyone brings. Someone might like the way that Tardot does a video, or 50 caliber Coleman. They might love his personality and sense of humor, and that I can't reach, or Tardot or Clover or G-Webs can't reach. The more people we have spreading a consistent message, and that message doesn't have to be the same as far as the wordage. It's just a consistent pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment message. It doesn't matter what you're talking about, as long as you're talking about something. And the more they can hear it, the more they see it, they might pick up on your personality, and next thing you know, you've converted someone just because they like how you present it. So get out there and turn a camera on, and like I said, welcome Georgia Rebel to the dark side, and I think he's going to have his first live chat maybe tomorrow night, and from that point, it's a slippery slope at that point. But guys, what we're going to talk about real quick is we're going to clean this up and talk about it, the rallies, and we're working on rallies, Tardot, and gunpowder, and never enough ammo, and they're being very instrumental on the 2A Capital rallies. Some states are having dates kind of already set, and that's wonderful. Some states have not set a date, and I don't know if it's going to be one specific date nationwide, or if it's going to be a time frame of, let's say, April. It's going to be rally month or something in each individual state. They haven't really come up with that, but go check out the Facebook page once again. I'll put that that link out here real quick. And
Why would it be staggered days? Doesn't it have less effect?
I want to say this. I don't know. The answer is I think that there has been discussion that some days may not be working for other states, and so it might, I don't know. Like I said, there has not been a consensus date as far as I know. It's hard. You might be able to talk a little bit more about this, but I don't believe there is one specific date for everyone yet. Are they working on that, or are we going to have staggered dates, or can you give us an update on that? I know
I've been jumping in and out of the Facebook page, and there hasn't been consistent dates set yet. And I know that was a conversation we had. I think it was earlier this week, or maybe last week, talking about having it during a month. That way, everybody could organize their states. It would be separately, and as if you look at it as a nation, it could be ineffective. But then we were also looking at the fact that if you're taking a whole month and there's a rally happening every other day, however often it is, then now you've got the capability of, say Minnesota had theirs the other day. Well, Ohio's having theirs on the 10th. Well, now, you might be able to have somebody who can hit both. Something to that extent, but you also got the consistency of now you've got it going on for a solid month. That it almost looks like we're not letting up, basically, which we wouldn't be. We're not letting up. We're having a consistent message put out there. And the biggest thing is right now, I'm not going to say they're not trying to do anything federally, but at the state level, that's where a lot of this legislation is starting at.
So are you saying that you're considering setting them up staggered in such a way through both Saturdays and Sundays, and then various weekends throughout a month? So that would give you not 4, but 8 different
media
states. And then you could have people that could rally together, get in a vehicle, and spend a month on the road going to 8 different rallies. And that means that 8 people one person could go to 8 different rallies and be consistency to those rallies.
Yeah, and on top of that, not only saying that, but the minimal media coverage that we may get, like you said, if you focus on April 1st, let's just say April 1st or whatever, and that's when the national rally, and everyone's going to say, well, by April 14th or 15th, people have forgotten about it. But if you're continuously doing it throughout that month, on every weekend, something on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, or something's popping up, the 2A Capitol rally, and it looks like it's going on for a month, that could be, and I'm not saying we're going to do this, I'm saying that I think that could be a huge victory for us to help urge people saying, man, these people are serious. They're going for an entire month. So I think it could be very, very effective. I don't know.
That was the whole point to the idea.
Yeah.
Was to push kind of push it. And I mean, there's going to be people who can't. They're not going to be able to hit multiple rallies. But if there is that capability, Ghost put it one way the other day, saying that if he could hit Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and what was it, Louisiana, Tennessee, then great.
Right there for me.
Springfield, or Missouri.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surrounded by 5 different states that I'm within. Except for Texas, I can get to Austin, but I mean, most of these are less than 6-hour drives to their capitals from where I am, which is amazing. But you're also talking about someone that may not be able to get to their own state capital for whatever reason, family obligations or travel or work or whatever, they can't get to on a specific day, but the next weekend they're free. Well, I might be 3 hours away from Springfield, Missouri. Well, guess what? I'm going to Springfield. And so I think it gives different options. But my side of it is, I think, yes, it's more flexible. But I think the side of it is the more media, I would say media. I'll just say the more we can get in front of social media and cameras and the media, if they want to cover it, and spread it over a month. That you don't see month-long marches or rallies happen. And I think that could be something that does kind of change the ball game a little bit. What's up, Early? What's up, Jimmy? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Was Jimmy in here? I don't like being in chats with that guy.
Yeah, he kind of just snuck in, so it is what it is. Well, guys, it is 8:30. We've already stepped on half of Night Strike, so we're going to jump out of here. Guys, I'm going to let these guys go through, and I'll kind of give my closing remarks, but go check out Hit or Miss over on Night Strike 1's channel on YouTube. The gun channels are still kind of down, so we're having to go through YouTube all the time right now. Is that correct? the channel pages at least. Like the hit or miss channel is not up right now.
I feel like people are taking gun channels for granted, so go deal with YouTube and deal with that crap for a while, and then
There you
come
go.
back.
They come back. All right. So speaking of which, we'll go ahead and start with you, G. Thanks for joining us tonight, as always. It was great to hear your perspective. And you got anything you want to plug or talk about besides Daily Gun Show? Or Daily Gun Show? You can talk about that as well.
No, appreciate the show. Thanks for the invite.
All right. He's not gonna promote it. He's not a 2-bit content self-promoter. Check out the Daily Gun Show. It's midnight Eastern, Monday through Friday. Him and Angelina and Bob, and they'll have Smeggy. They'll have all different people that are hosting, but usually it's definitely him and Bob and Angelina, and sometimes Jimmy when he's comes around, and Smeggy. But go check out the Daily Gun Show, midnight Eastern, Monday through Friday. So appreciate you coming on, G. Clover, what you got, buddy?
I don't have a lot of anything actually. So
okay.
Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for your points of view. And I like what the discussion went. I think we were all kind of on the same page. Is we've got to figure out different ways to combat what's going on. And so thank you for coming on, and go check out Clover tomorrow night at 7 Central with the Next Generation. We'll go to Tardot next. What's going on, Tardot? What you got to plug?
Of course, check me out on Tardot357 on YouTube and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then on GunChannels, it's Tardot Productions. And then also I've got www.tardotproductions.com. Check me out over there. Me and Gunpowder Beauty are doing blogs, and we've got a little t-shirt store and paracord store going. And then the last thing I really want to say is just, and we've hit it frequently, I know, throughout this, but we've all got to be visible in our own way. You may not do YouTube videos, but if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like G was saying, and like's been said several times, occasionally throw something out there, throw something pro-gun out there once a week or so, and just get the message out and show people that, you know what, you're interacting frequently with somebody who's pro-gun, and that's going to be the first way to really start changing minds. Basically, don't be a closet gun owner. Be open about it.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point. Ellis, what you got, buddy?
Not a whole lot. My show's coming up again on Monday. It's Shooting with the Outlaw. I think that's the name of it. My mind just took a crap again. It happens. Other than that, I might surprise you with a couple shows during the week. Late night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
The new Ellis also has shows. We're going to talk about his shows.
What's that now? Ellis has shows. Well, I guess now it's gonna be Mondays and Tuesdays instead of Tuesdays and Thursdays, right? Because you're not you're working now. That your schedule changed. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. He decided to take my Thursdays and let me work them, and I'm off on Mondays now.
Yeah.
So.
There you go. Oh, yeah. There you go. All right, before we get going, guys, there are a couple of things I want to bring up. The drill of the month for March is out. The link is going to be right here, so go check out the drill of the month. This month's drill is called Crazy Eights. It's a simple drill, but it's a good one. It's very simple. Sometimes simple is better, so have fun with it. The February drill of the month winner was Cycle Camp, so congratulations, Bill. Cycle Camp is the February drill of the month champion. So we'll get your stuff out to you very soon. Another thing what's that?
Extra points this month if you shoot it with a 38 special or a 38 super.
Okay. Or 380? Is that what you said?
Okay.
Extra points. All right. Yeah, well, we can shoot whatever you want, but yeah, if you want to shoot it with a 38 or 380, go for it. We'll call the G-Webs extra point, extra credit. So
extra points for that.
Okay. All right. There you go. All right. So we've got exactly a month as far as date goes. Tomorrow we have the Wanamaker Gun Show in Tulsa. And one of our buddies, there's going to be about at least 20 of us heading over to Tulsa to cover the J.M. Davis Museum and the Wanamaker Gun Show, which is the largest gun show in the world. over, what is it, 7 acres inside under one roof of a gun show, and over, what is
Was
it?
11 and SHOT Show was 7, or was it the other way around?
No, you're right. Yeah, SHOT Show was 7. This is 11 acres. That's right. It's 11 acres under one building. Yeah, good job. Yeah, 11 acres, and it's over, what, 4,000 booths or something like that? It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
And it's better because it's in one giant room. I mean, it is split level, but yeah, it's just amazing being in that. The energy in that giant room is crazy.
And you don't have to worry about weather, no matter what it is, hot, raining, cold, snowing. You're under a roof, so you don't have to worry about it and all that. But one of our brothers in arms,
except for second-class citizens who have to smoke, we have to go outside all the time.
Well, you know, our rights were infringed upon years ago about that. So that's a whole different issue. But yes, the smokers must go outside and all that. But, you know, but one of our brothers in arms is working on trying to get to Tulsa. And we told him we would try to help him out. He's got about a day or so left, and he is trying to get to Tulsa. It's Night Strike. You guys all know and love Night Strike. And Night Strike is trying as hard as he can to get to Tulsa. He's talking about selling guns and all that, but he has to fly. And with airlines and hotel and all that, there is a budget that he is trying to meet. And we want to make sure we try to get him there. So we told him we'd help him out. He did start an Indiegogo up, and right now he's at $190. And if we can get him to Tulsa with his air flight, you know, between the rest of us, we can help chip in for food and all that stuff. But it looks like he's going to need about $350 to take care of his air flight. So what we're doing is he has an Indiegogo. It's up for maybe another day or so. But here is the link on the YouTube side. If you're able to help Night Strike out, get to Tulsa, and you feel like throwing a couple bones, then please go check out the Indiegogo. I do believe that he has said live on air that if he gets enough money raised to get to Tulsa, he will in fact wear a blue dress and do a live show in a blue dress. So if that's something you're interested in, and I'm not trying to make fun of that, but he actually is throwing that out as a perk. So I wanted to pass that on, is if you actually want to see that. More importantly, guys, if you would like to help Night Strike get from South Carolina to Tulsa to cover the Wanamaker Gun Show and J.M. Davis, and you've got a few bones to throw his way, please go check out his Indiegogo. It'll tell you he's got a little bit more perks for people that are throwing stuff out there for him. But like I said, he needs about another $150 to secure his airline ticket. And I said, once he secures his airline ticket, the rest of it will maybe be able to be worked out. But we've got to get him to Tulsa before we can worry about meals and all of that. So if you're able and willing to check that out and help out, please go check out the Indiegogo. And yeah, Jim says he might throw a few bones not to wear the blue dress. There you go. But if you guys are willing to do that, I think he's got, you know, a little less than a day. This might be the last day. If you're willing to, like I said, go check out Night Strike's Indiegogo and help him out. Get over there and harass him on hit or miss and all that, guys. But do you guys have anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
Good. While you're at it, throw some recommendations out there for the dress. You know, does it need to be like a slinky little number, or does it need to be ready for a night on the town?
I feel Night Strike or Jonas should have flowers on the dress.
No,
I just see him with flowers.
No.
Well, I do believe we're talking combat boots and a dress, so that'd be kind of interesting. You know,
it has to be blue sequins. I'm telling you.
Right.
And some sparklies. Don't forget sparklies.
I want to say thank you to everybody that was out in the chat earlier. I want to say thank you to everyone that's still currently in the chat. We were well over 50 at one point, so thank you for that. And if you're watching in replay, make sure that you, if you liked it, please subscribe to the channel. We love having you. If you like the video, thumb it up, share it, throw a comment in there. If you don't like it, thumb it down for all I care. But make sure you leave a comment as to tell us maybe why you didn't like it. That helps me know what people are thinking out there. That helps me out. If you like to support the channel, we'd love to have you on Patreon. So I'm going to throw a little link out there if you'd like to. Patreon.com/ghost.
What are your perks over on Patreon?
Well, they're going to change over. Right now, it's $1 gets a Ghost Squad sticker and $5 getting a hat. Well, we're going to change in April. I've got stickers and patches, some challenge coins, which actually poker chips, and patches on those. So we're going to do now in April. We're going to have the $1, which is a sticker, a $5, which is the challenge coin, a $10, which is a Ghost Tactical patch, and then the $20 would be the hat. My hat prices have gone up from my other suppliers, no longer going to be doing that. So I had to go and find hats, and they're going to be a little bit more expensive than they were previously, which is fine. But if you'd like to support the channel, we'd love to have you. If not, do me a favor and go check out our website. It's www.ghosttactical.us, and I'll put it out there as well. And what we could do over there is you have access to all the drill of the month stuff. We have some Second Amendment links that you can click and get to these different people very, very quickly. We have our blog, everything you need to know about, all of our links, all of our social media. If you're wanting to get out there and find out more about Ghost Tactical, we'd love to have you in any way, shape, or form. So thank you so much, guys, for joining Tactical Tuesday. We will see you soon. Be on the lookout for more videos along the way. And until next time, guys, stay vigilant and Semper Fi.